Charles Fillmore, Unity co-founder, was very, very intellectual. He really liked learning a lot. So this subject falls under the topic of classic Unity teachings. And during the course of next year, I will try to cover some of its 12 powers a little more in depth as a lesson. So today is just a general overview of them all. So what are these 12 powers and where did they come from? We have to back up just a bit to understand this. As I said, Unity was founded by Myrtle and Charles Fillmore. Initially, it was Myrtle who started it because she had received a diagnosis of tuberculosis in her 40s, and in the 1800s, that essentially was a death sentence. And she went to a New Thought lecture one night and heard a speaker, and she was transformed. She grew up a Methodist. She was very, very spiritual. Charles, on the other hand, was a bit more skeptical initially. But once he saw that Myrtle was able to do self-healing, he really jumped on board. And as a heady intellectual type of a guy, he concluded that if it's possible for one person to do this, then surely it must be something that resides in all of us. We must all be able to do this. And he really took this on. And back in February, I did a lesson on the origins of Unity, how it's all started. And if you remember, Charles, as a young boy, suffered an accident. And he left one of his legs kind of crippled, basically, because he lived out in the boondocks. There was no doctors around or anything like that, so he couldn't see anything. And so this resulted in that he could not really attend school, normal school. But he had the good fortune of having been schooled by an educated young military wife who was the mother of a friend of his. And this lady introduced Charles into all kinds of stuff, literature of different kinds, including the Transcendentalist movement. Now, Charles was quick and eager to learn. She loved it because her son was like, yeah, whatever, with the school stuff. And Charles was not like, he was like, oh no, tell me more, I want to know. And so long story short, Charles grew up very well versed in many, many fields. And stuff that he would not have learned at that young age, at that point in time, but he did. So fast forward now to when Unity began. As I said, when he jumped on, I mean, he really jumped on board. Now they both had Christian backgrounds, and so they took the model of Christianity and began to kind of reinterpret it, the message, into what I would consider a higher level of consciousness. And it came to be known as we call it, the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. And in this context, metaphysical simply means spiritual. Now, another word to describe this way is allegory. And this is what it says in the dictionary about allegory: a narrative or visual representation in which a character, place, or event can be interpreted to represent a hidden meaning with moral, political, or spiritual significance. That's basically what the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible is. So in this way of interpreting, then, every person, every place, everything, everything, it's in the Bible, represents some aspect of our infinite spiritual journey. It makes it personal to each of us. So within this context, there is an Adam, there is a Moses, there is a burning bush, there is an Exodus, there is a Mary and Joseph, and even a Jesus, all within our consciousness. Why? Because we share one consciousness, one overview consciousness. Emerson called it the one soul, or the oversoul, right? The oversoul, yeah, the oversoul. Of course, that raises the question, and I raised the question, I said, are you trying to tell me that the authors intended us to interpret it this way? Really? Now, intent, well, maybe not, but hey, sometimes we're guided subconsciously by things that we don't know what was guiding us, so maybe they did intend it that way. In either way, it doesn't diminish the value of the interpretation. And I see it, as I said before, because it gives you a chance to see it from a bigger perspective, from this greater perspective that you might call the mountaintop. And that is always I've said that before. Every time they're going to receive some kind of a revelation of any kind in the Bible, they went to the mountaintop. Now, what does that mean exactly? It means that you elevate yourself to a higher consciousness. And from that perspective, you see the situation. So anyway, Fillmore had a very clever way of seeing the Bible, and the 12 Powers was one example. He writes in his book, The 12 Powers, inherent in the mind of being are 12 fundamental ideas, which in action appear as primal creative forces. It is possible for a person to ally himself or herself with these forces and thereby cooperate with creative law. Then he says the subconscious realm in humankind has 12 great centers of action. Then he makes this interesting correlation. He said, when Jesus had attained a certain soul development, he called his disciples together. And I said, well, that's an interesting one. First time I saw that. And what he's saying is that when we reach a level of spiritual unfolding, like Jesus did when he was about to begin his ministry, then we bring together all these faculties that we have and use them in order to achieve what we want to do spiritually. If I were to use an automotive term, I would say like, okay, we're firing on all cylinders now, one of those things. So now get this point, he says. This is the first and the second coming of Christ. Fillmore's a clever guy. He said the first coming is the receiving of truth in the conscious mind. And the second coming is not Jesus coming back. It is the awakening and the regeneration of the subconscious mind through the superconscious or Christ mind. That is the second coming. In other words, when your light bulb turns on, that's your second coming. Not that somebody's going to come, from that way. So it was very interesting how Fillmore was able to put it together, this interpretation of the Bible. And it says, an interesting point to know about the 12 powers is that each functions in 3 ways. There's that magical number 3. The first is as a perfect idea in divine mind. The second is as a growing concept within our consciousness. And the third is as an expression into the manifest world. Now, what does that sound like? Mind, idea, expression, divine order. The Reverend Galen McDowell, he had a program on Unity Online Radio. He puts it this way. He said, the 12 powers teach us to work with total consciousness. And I said, okay. So what are these 12 powers? They are, in no particular order, faith, strength, wisdom, love, power, imagination, understanding, will, order, zeal, elimination, and life. And Therese shared one about elimination this morning. So thank you for that. So it's important to note that as all spiritual gifts, this is not, the 12 powers is not something that we have to go out and get. In fact, it says it's not even something we have to develop. It's something that we need to activate. They're already there, but in potential. How many times do we talk about that all the time? Yes, it exists in potential, waiting for you to activate it. And one way to do that is through spiritual practices. And that's why we're really big on spiritual practices here at Unity Georgetown. And as a matter of fact, I'm looking for ways to expand that. And one of the things might be to bring in, this Let's Get LGM class has really let me know that we have some extremely gifted and talented people in this room. We really do. I am probably the least of you all. And I want you to share some of what you know and do with the rest of us. And one way might be, for those of you who do certain things, practices, is to come up and help us during the spiritual practice part of the service and let you guide us through something. It's an experiment. We're going to see if we can work on that coming up soon. At any rate, that's why it's so important that we dedicate a part of the service to that. And remember also that we have 14 spiritual tools I could tell you about. So Fillmore, once again, was extremely clever. Not only did he interpret parts of the Bible, I have a book this thick that's called The Metaphysical Interpretation of the Bible. Every character, everything, the guy tells you, in his interpretation, what that character or person or place or whatever means. I don't know how he did this. Extremely clever dude. I'm really impressed with Fillmore. Always have been. So early on, I learned that, I told you that, so he was exposed to many different worldly views. and that way blended into all the different ideas that he had. Like, for example, the Buddhist deist concept of an impersonal God. But the difference is, of course, we bring in a personal God as well. And this Eastern influence very much is in the 12 powers. So in the 12 powers, Fillmore not only connects us to the 12 disciples, but he connects it with several different centers of the body and colors, much like chakras. So you see that influence he has of that. And like the chakras, he attaches colors to them. So the 12 powers have a disciple attached to it, a color, a location in the body, and even a month of the year. They are truly the blending of a lot of different ideas coming together. And so, of course, this is all because, well, everything is one, and which supersedes all other lessons. So I'm just going to summarize real quickly the 12 powers and what corresponds with them. Again, today is just an introduction to the idea of 12 powers. So the first one, starting from the very bottom of the lowest part of the body, is called elimination. It says the color is russet, the disciple is Thaddeus, the location is the lower intestinal region, and the function is to be ability to release, let go, and the month is November. The second one is life. The color is red. The disciple is Judas. The location is in the reproductive area. Function, ability to energize, vitalize, enlive, be whole, healthy. And the month is December. The third one is order. The color is olive green. The disciple is James. The location, back of the navel. The function, ability organized, balanced, to sequence. And the month is September. The fourth one is strength. The color is spring green. The disciple, Andrew. The location is the small of the back. The function is the ability to endure, to stay the course, to persist, to persevere. The month is February. The fifth is judgment / wisdom. The color is yellow. The disciple is James, son of Zebedee. The location is the solar plexus. The function, ability to evaluate, discern, appraise, apply what you know. The month is March. The sixth one is love, and the color is pink. The disciple is John. The location, back of the heart. The function, ability to harmonize, unity, and attract. And April is the month. Domination. The color, purple. The disciple, Philip. The root of your tongue, or larynx. The function, ability to master, dominate, control. And I'm not talking about controlling other people. I'm talking about controlling your thoughts, having dominion over your thoughts. And the month is May. Then there's zeal. The color is orange. The disciple is Simon. The location is the brainstem. The function is the ability to be passionate, to start, to motivate. And the month is October. Faith, color, royal blue. Now we're getting into the higher colors. Disciple is Peter, our first pope, I believe. Location is a pineal gland. The function is ability to believe with confidence, have conviction. January is the month. Then there is imagination. Color is light blue. The disciple, Bartholomew. Location, between the eyes. The function is ability to imagine, envision, dream, conceptualize. The month is June. The 11th is will. Will, the color is silver. The disciple is Matthew. It's located in the front brain. The function is the ability to choose, decide, and to lead. August is the month. And the final one is understanding. The color is gold. The disciple is Thomas. The location is the front brain again. And the function is the ability to know, to perceive. And the month is July. So again, today's lesson is just simply an introduction to these 12 powers. There's lessons that can be done on every one of them. And in fact, when I did my SDS for my LUT, everybody's assigned one. I was assigned elimination. So I'm very familiar with elimination. And so I wanted to just do that for today, just cover a couple of things for you about the 12 powers. And again, they're spiritual faculties. And you can see that we don't use one at a time, obviously. We're using everything at the same time, all the time. So now I want to just take a few moments to center ourselves on the idea of the 12 powers. We begin, as we always do, with gratitude. Gratitude for our access to these wonderful and miraculous faculties that we are endowed with as spiritual beings having a human experience. We are reminded that our power of will is for choosing to be here at Unity today. We know that our power of wisdom has brought us to this place and to this time. We turn our attention to our power of elimination as we release and let go of all false and limiting beliefs that we may be harboring in our minds. We give thanks for our life and our ability to energize, vitalize, enliven, and to be whole. We approach life with zeal and passion for this human experience. We demonstrate strength and perseverance as we traverse through life's challenges, those that present themselves to us. And through faith, we believe that what is in our highest good is manifesting for us right now. And with love, the great unifying power in the universe, we attract all that is ready to become part of our greater experience. We rest in this great understanding, and we know that all is well.